For the first time in centuries, researchers have uncovered what's believed to be Jesus' tomb.
For the first time in centuries, researchers have uncovered what's believed to be Jesus' tomb. For over 2,000 years, inside Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre lies one of the most sacred sites in Christian history, the tomb said to have held the body of Jesus. Now, for the first time in centuries, researchers have pulled back the stone. What they discovered wasn't relics or remains, but a revelation that could rewrite everything we believe about that moment in history. Beneath layers of marble, incense, and centuries of worship lies a place most believed would never be touched again. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, regarded by many as the exact site of Jesus' crucifixion, burial, and resurrection, has stood for over 1,700 years. But hidden under its ornate floors, sealed by generations of reverence and stone, is something far more ancient. A tomb. Not just any tomb. A tomb that the earliest Christians believed belonged to Jesus of Nazareth. And for the first time in modern history, it has been opened. A team of archaeologists, engineers, and religious scholars gathered not just to confirm its age, but to understand its meaning. What they uncovered wasn't gold, it wasn't ancient manuscripts, and it wasn't human remains. It was something missing. The slab was there. The chamber was real, but the space that once held a body held nothing. And underneath that, a deeper layer, soil never seen before, stonework untouched by time, botanical traces that match something found only in the pages of Scripture. The closer they looked, the clearer it became. This was not just a burial site. It was a message carved not in words, but in emptiness. And beneath it all lay a secret that had waited 2,000 years to speak again. Long before the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was crowned with domes and candles, the ground it stands on was a quarry, rough, uneven, abandoned. But by the 1st century, it had been transformed into something different, a place of gardens and tombs carved into the rock just outside Jerusalem's city walls. The Gospel of John tells us that near the place of crucifixion there was a garden, and in that garden a new tomb, freshly cut, untouched, a tomb prepared for someone else, but used for Jesus. John 19:41 says, "At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in that garden a new tomb." Now, over 2,000 years later, scientists have found olive and grape pollen buried in the soil beneath the tomb structure. Plant life that only grows in cultivated gardens, not quarries. Not just folklore, botanical evidence, physical proof that the location described in Scripture was once exactly as the Gospel said. And yet, this was only the beginning. Beneath the burial slab, another layer emerged, a second platform older than the marble shrine built by Constantine in the 4th century. It was a footprint of early Christian worship, a space preserved by design, left untouched, as if they knew one day it would need to speak again. And now it has. But what else lies beneath the surface? And why, after so many centuries, was the tomb empty from the start? The team wasn't just excavating stone, they were pulling back time. As the final marble slab was lifted, the chamber revealed itself, ancient, solemn, and silent. Not a monument, not a replica, but a real tomb carved from limestone, consistent with Jewish burial practices of the 1st century. Everything matched. The shape of the chamber, the bench where a body would have been placed, the rolling stone entrance, even the layout of surrounding tombs, just as early pilgrim accounts described it. And yet, it was empty. No bones, no burial cloths, no remnants of decomposition, not even the faint dust of human remains. For skeptics, it might seem convenient, a mystery impossible to verify, but for believers, it was something far more powerful: confirmation. Because this wasn't just any empty grave, it was the most historically defended tomb in the world, guarded for centuries by churches, protected by emperors, fought over by nations. If ever a place could preserve something, this was it. And yet, what remains is absence. The kind of absence that echoes with purpose. The Bible never claimed bones would be left behind. It claimed something else entirely, that on the third day, the tomb would be empty, that Christ would rise not symbolically, but physically. And here in the silence of this chamber, the world is forced to ask, if not here, then where? And if he is not dead, then what does that mean for us? As researchers dug deeper beneath the burial chamber, they didn't find treasure. They found soil. Soil undisturbed for nearly 2 millennia. Samples were taken. Microscopic analysis revealed fragments, olive pollen, grape residue, ancient dust from cultivated plants, not weeds, not desert brush, but evidence of a working garden. It confirmed something few had dared to believe archaeologically. This wasn't just near a garden, it was one, exactly as the Gospel described it. For centuries, critics dismissed the garden tomb narrative as poetic symbolism, but now scientific data aligned with Scripture. It wasn't only about what was found, it was about what was not found. Because if this truly was a 2,000-year-old tomb, and if it had only been used once, and if no body was ever recovered from inside, then the entire foundation of Christian belief that Jesus rose from the dead was no longer just a matter of hope. It was a challenge to history. In the dirt, in the pollen, in the silence, every layer whispered the same truth. Someone had been buried here, and someone had left. But the most haunting detail, there were no signs of robbery, no signs of tampering, no evidence of another burial, just a void that looked like it once held eternity. And beneath that stillness, the deeper question remained. Why would the earliest Christians, those closest to the crucifixion, worship at a tomb that was already empty, unless that's exactly what they expected to find? In the 4th century, Roman Emperor Constantine's mother Helena made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. She had one purpose: to locate the sites most sacred to the Christian faith. With guidance from local Christians, she ordered excavations at a site believed to be Golgotha and the nearby tomb. What they uncovered stunned even the imperial court: an ancient limestone chamber cut from rock facing west, matching the burial customs of the time. The early church believed with certainty this was it. Constantine built a shrine over it, a monument of protection, a statement to the world that this tomb mattered, not because of what it contained, but because of what it didn't. And yet, for centuries, the structure stood without being opened. Why? Because to open it was to face the weight of belief. What if it was just a myth? What if it held nothing? Or what if it held something that would change everything? In recent years, when researchers were finally allowed to remove the layers of marble covering the tomb's original slab, they found exactly what had been recorded: a stone surface, a burial bed, and beneath it, a natural cavity carved into bedrock, left untouched since the days of Constantine. It wasn't repurposed, it wasn't looted, it was sealed, preserved by time, pilgrimage, and faith. And if the earliest Christians honored an empty tomb, and if the Emperor of Rome memorialized that very emptiness, then this was not superstition, it was testimony in stone. But the real question was never, is the tomb real? It's what the tomb is trying to tell us. The archaeologists expected to find layers of dust, centuries of decay, maybe even the bones of another long-forgotten burial. Instead, they found emptiness, and that absence became the loudest voice in the chamber. In every other ancient tomb, Jewish, Roman, or otherwise, bones are eventually found, sometimes gathered in ossuaries, sometimes decayed into the soil, but there is always something left. But here, there was nothing. No bones, no tools, no secondary use, just space, clean, preserved, and still. Some might say, of course it's empty, it's been 2,000 years. But that's not how tombs work. Even the most weathered graves in Jerusalem, buried and exposed for millennia, leave behind a trace. This one didn't, because it wasn't abandoned, it was vacated, and not by grave robbers. Roman guards had been posted, a stone rolled in, a seal set in place. The Gospel of Matthew is clear. They went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. Matthew 27:66. And yet 3 days later, it was open. For centuries, this claim has lived in the realm of belief. But now, standing before a real tomb in a real garden with real evidence of burial and departure, the line between faith and fact is growing thinner. Because this site isn't just possible, it's exactly where early believers claimed it happened. And what they said they saw matches what we see now. But what does it mean?